Have you ever felt like you were being watched? Imagine that sensation creeping into every moment of your life. My name is Paul Sinclair, and what I am about to share will plunge you into the darkest corners of my nightmares. It all began one night in 2002 when I witnessed an unidentified flying object, an encounter that would forever change my reality. From that moment on, the men in black started to shadow my every move. It was a clear night in 2002 when I first saw it, a glowing object hovering silently in the sky. I remember stepping outside, the cool air brushing against my skin, and glancing up to see this luminous, pulsating light. At first, I thought it was a plane, but the way it moved sent shivers down my spine. It darted from side to side, defying everything I understood about aviation. My heart raced as I instinctively reached for my phone, but it felt like an eternity before I could even blink. Just like that, it vanished into the darkness. Next morning, my world began to fracture. I noticed them, two men in black suits standing a few houses down, their stillness accentuating their presence. They were watching me, their eyes intense, almost predatory. I felt exposed, vulnerable, like every secret I held was laid bare beneath their scrutiny. I tried to shake off the unease, but as I walked to my car, I noticed they had moved a bit closer, their expressions unreadable beneath their dark glasses. Every instinct told me to call someone, to reach out. But even as I dialed my phone, I hesitated. What could I say? I felt a suffocating weight of fear settling in my chest. What did they want? What had they seen? My life shifted into a new reality, one where the ordinary melted away, replaced by a chilling awareness that I was being watched. Whatever I had witnessed the night before wasn't just an isolated incident. It felt more like a doorway into a nightmare I couldn't escape. I remember the day as if it were yesterday. The sunlight barely filtered through my blinds as I stood at the window, still shaken by what I had witnessed the night before. I had thought the unidentified flying object sighting was something extraordinary, something to share. Little did I know, it was just the beginning of something far more sinister. The following morning, as I stepped outside, I noticed them. Two figures dressed in impeccably formal black suits, their hats casting shadows over their faces. They approached me with an eerie calmness that sent shivers down my spine. It was as if they moved in perfect sync, their movements so precise that it felt unnatural, almost otherworldly. "Mr. Sinclair," one of them began, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. It sent an undeniable chill through me. How did they know my name? But that was just the tip of the iceberg. They proceeded to list details about my life, my daily routine, where I worked, and the coffee shop I visited every morning. Every fact they stated was a dagger to my gut, reminding me of the vulnerabilities I had unwittingly shared with the world. Their warning was clear, chillingly so. Forget what you saw. The threat lingered in the air, heavy with intent, and I could feel the walls closing in around me, as if the very earth beneath my feet conspired to swallow me whole. The dread didn't end there. Over the next few weeks, they kept appearing. I would catch a glimpse of their dark suits in the corner of my eye while I ran errands or even when I strolled in the park. It felt like an unending game of cat and mouse, their presence weaving an omnipresent thread of fear throughout my life. This unexplainable barrage of encounters fueled something deeper, a gnawing existential dread that I struggled to shake off. I became acutely aware of the world around me, haunted by the knowledge that I was always being watched. My life turned into a waking nightmare, and I'm not exaggerating. It felt like I was in a horror movie, but it was all too real. The men in black began to invade every aspect of my daily routine. They showed up at my workplace, lingering around the break room, their eerie whispers just outside the glass doors. I could almost feel the weight of their gaze, like a cold fog wrapping around me, suffocating and unnerving. Even during my lunch breaks at the cafe, I loved the one spot where I sought comfort. They would appear. I would glance up from my book, and there they were, dressed in stark black suits, their expressions unreadable, yet somehow unsettling. Often, I would see them from the corner of my eye, only to find them gone the moment I turned to look directly. It was as if they danced on the edge of my vision, a menacing shadow that nibbled at my sanity. Evening walks turned into battles against the creeping dread that consumed me. I would rush home, heart pounding, breath shallow, but no matter how quickly I tried to escape, I felt that unseen presence trailing behind. Then, one night, it escalated beyond anything I had prepared for. I woke up to the distinct feeling of being watched. The darkness of my room felt thicker, more oppressive. As I squinted into the shadows, my blood froze when I spotted one of them standing at the foot of my bed. Just a silhouette, yet it sent icy chills through my veins. I reached for the lamp, flicked the switch, and poof, he was gone, vanished like a phantom. The fear, however, remained, coiling tighter and tighter around my chest. I need to tell you about the mental toll these encounters had on me. As the days went by, I found myself spiraling into a maze of paranoia. I couldn't separate reality from delusion anymore. Were these suits and dark sunglasses really stalking me? Or was I losing my grip on reality? It felt impossible to shake the sensation of being watched, a shiver creeping down my spine when I would catch a glimpse of someone too still, too silent, just lurking in the shadows, seeking solace. I reached out to a friend, someone I thought could understand. I poured out my fears to him, my growing dread. As I spoke, I anticipated reassurance, maybe even a laugh at my bizarre tales. But the look on his face shattered me. He leaned in closer, his voice trembling, and confessed that he had seen them too. Men dressed in black suits, their faces obscured, always just out of reach. It struck me like a cold slap. We were both ensnared in their web, two souls lost in the eeriness of our everyday lives. We tried to rationalize it. Was it a joke? A coincidence? But with each encounter, the dark reality loomed larger. We couldn't escape it. The men in black were no longer just figures lurking in my mind. They had seeped into his world, grasping our sanity with icy fingers. Our conversations turned murky, filled with whispered fears and wild theories about who they were and what they wanted. The more we speculated, the more we questioned our own sanity. We were trapped in a sinister game, teetering on the edge of fear. That sense of dread loomed over us like a thick fog that refused to lift, suffocating and relentless. The days turned into weeks, and then, just like that, the men in black faded from our lives. Their sudden disappearance was jarring. One moment, there they were, heavy footsteps echoing and shadows lurking. The next, it was as if they had never been there at all. The city moved on, blissfully unaware of the muffled whispers that snaked through my thoughts. But for me, the unsettling calm that replaced their presence was more unnerving than the visits themselves. I would see people laugh in coffee shops, hear kids playing outside, and I could hardly breathe under the weight of it all. Had they simply decided to leave, or were they watching, waiting for the right moment to strike again? Sometimes, I imagined their eyes, cold and calculating, peering through my curtains in the dead of night. I would glance over my shoulder at every creak in the house, imagining their dark suits gliding silently past my window. The world felt heavy with secrets, Each door I opened felt like a portal to another eerie encounter. Life lost its rhythm. It became a twisted subscription to dread, where every mundane task seemed tainted by the fear of the unknown. I had layers of existential dread now, and it felt like a shroud I could never shake off.
My name is Mary Christensen, and for the longest time I believed my family lived a normal, peaceful life. That was until the day the men in black visited us. It all began when my husband, Jake, reported seeing strange lights flickering in the night sky. At first we dismissed it as another passing phenomenon, a trick of the light or perhaps just some distant aircraft. But soon the eerie occurrences began to pile up. One evening, as we sat at the dinner table, the power flickered, plunging us into a sudden darkness that felt heavier than the night outside. We exchanged uneasy glances. Jake suggested it was just a storm rolling in, yet something deep within me began to grow. Uneasy. Little did I know, the chills were only just beginning. The very next day, after Jake returned from work, 2 men appeared at our door. They wore dark suits that made them look utterly out of place in our quiet neighborhood. Their sunglasses glinted unnaturally under the afternoon sun, sending an unsettling shiver down my spine. We hesitated, exchanging nervous whispers, unsure whether to open the door or not. When we finally did, their questions were peculiar, intrusive even. They probed about the lights Jake had seen, asking if he had noticed anything unusual afterward. I felt the air grow thick with tension. There was an intensity in their gaze that made me shiver. It was as if they were peeling back layers of our lives with their questions. I couldn't shake the feeling that they knew something we did not. I can still remember that first encounter as if it were just yesterday. It began with a knock at the door on a chilly evening, the kind that sends an uneasy shiver down your spine. I hesitated for a moment, glancing back at my children who were still shaken from our earlier sighting of those strange lights flickering in the sky. When I finally opened the door, there they stood, 2 men in dark suits, so impeccably dressed it felt like they had stepped out of a different era. Their smiles were polite, but there was something unnervingly flat about them, as if their faces were painted on rather than real. They asked me a series of questions about the lights we had seen. The way they spoke sent chills racing down my arms. Their voices had an almost mechanical quality, devoid of the warmth and humanity that should come with normal conversation. My children huddled behind me, their little fingers squeezing my shirt as they peeked out, wide-eyed and terrified. I could feel their fear radiating against my back. It was as if the men were somehow feeding off of it, feeding off the unease that settled thicker than the evening fog. As I answered their questions, I noticed how their expressions never changed. Not a flicker of emotion, not even when I described the colours of the lights or the strange patterns in which they moved. It was disconcerting, to say the least. When they finally turned to leave, I felt an unmistakable sense of dread settle over the house. Their presence clung to the air, weaving itself into the very fabric of our home. The moment the door clicked shut behind them, the warmth seemed to drain away, leaving only an unsettling chill. I glanced at my children, their faces pale, and I knew then that things would never be the same. The laughter, the light, everything had been tainted by the knowledge that we were being watched, hunted even. The strangeness of that first encounter quickly spiraled into something far more sinister. It started simply enough, but soon those men in black began to show up more frequently, intruding into the edges of our lives like an unwelcome fog. Their visits became almost ritualistic, appearing at odd hours, as if they knew when we were most vulnerable. Each time they came, they wore that same cold, expressionless facade, their suits so impeccably tailored, and yet the air around them felt thick with a tension that made my skin crawl. They always asked the same questions over and over. It was maddening. "What do you remember? What did you see?" Their words came out in a monotone, robotic rhythm, as though they had rehearsed them 1,000 times before. I tried to answer, to provide the information they demanded, but it felt like no matter what I said, it was never enough. Their gazes bore into us like hot iron. I could almost sense them peering into the depths of my mind, scraping at the edges of my thoughts, revealing all my hidden fears. As the days turned to weeks, dread seeped into my home, planting seeds of psychological distress that blossomed into full-blown anxiety. I became hyper-aware of every creak and shadow, each sound sending jolts of terror crawling up my spine. I did not feel safe in my own skin, let alone in my own home. It was as if I had become a prisoner, held captive by these spectres in suits. I remember glancing out the window one night, the street lamp struggling against the darkness, and I swear I saw one of them standing there silhouetted against its glow, just watching. A creeping sensation gripped my heart. What did they want from us? Why were they targeting our family? And what horror loomed on the horizon with each seemingly innocent visit? In those harrowing moments, I realized we were trapped in our own lives, constantly watched, silently judged, always waiting for the next intrusion. It wasn't just the visits that unnerved us. It was the psychological toll they took on my family. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle outside, sent us into a whirlwind of dread. My children, usually vibrant and full of energy, began to retreat into themselves. I'd hear them whispering in the dark, a hushed symphony of fears veiled under the covers. Night after night, they'd wake up screaming, trapped in nightmare realms of shadows and indistinct figures, their memories of the men in black manifesting into grotesque shapes in their minds. Their terror clawed at my insides and my husband. He transformed into a different man, one who flinched at every sound, one who scrutinized the streetlights as if they held secrets. "What if they come for us?" he'd mutter, eyes darting around the house as if the walls had ears. His paranoia seeped into our daily lives, turning mundane outings into tense festivals of fear. We stopped talking about that first sighting, banishing it to whispers behind closed doors, convinced that silence would be our shield. Yet, the more we hushed it, the more aggressive the reality became. Those men in black we tried to forget were now spectres haunting our existence, lurking at the edge of our perception. They had woven a fabric of fear that gripped our hearts, leaving us always on edge. What would they want next? The anticipation of their next knock on our door echoed ominously in our minds, reminding us that no matter how hard we tried to resist, they had become uninvited guests in our lives.
When it comes to the men in black, those enigmatic figures wrapped in mystery, there is a swirling abyss of theories attempting to explain who or what they truly are. I have spent countless nights poring over bizarre encounters, piecing together the chilling narratives that have emerged over decades. Each story echoes with themes that grip the core of our fears, and the possibilities are as diverse as they are unnerving. Some insist that the men in black are mere government agents dispatched to silence witnesses of extraterrestrial encounters. Imagine the fear you would feel if you had just seen something beyond comprehension. An unidentified flying object whizzing across the sky, only to have these stern figures approach you, armed with unsettling knowledge of your experience. Their intentions? To ensure that no one hears your story, to keep the world blissfully ignorant of the unknown. Then there are those who whisper that they might not be human at all, extraterrestrial beings perhaps, who have adopted our likeness to observe us, or worse, to enforce some hidden agenda. This thought sends shivers down my spine. The idea that a creature not of this earth could be spying on us, masquerading behind a facade of tailored suits and dark sunglasses, reshapes the mundane into something terrifyingly otherworldly. Their blank expressions, unyielding gazes, and eerie calmness create an atmosphere thick with dread. I think back to witness accounts, people reporting that they felt an inexplicable urge to comply, a chilling need to remain silent about their experiences. This behavior aligns alarmingly well with the eerie tales swirling around these figures. They seem engineered to intimidate and manipulate. There is something about them that makes your heart race, isn't there? A primal fear kicks in, a belief that they are the ones lurking in the shadows, controlling the narrative of our reality. Many theories suggest that they wield knowledge far beyond our understanding, potentially armed not just with statistics and facts, but with dark secrets designed to maintain the status quo. They thrive on our silence, and as we succumb to our fears, we may unknowingly participate in a conspiracy that stretches far beyond anything we can comprehend. The men in black breed existential dread, forcing us to confront how much we really know or do not know about our world. Are we merely shadow figures in a much larger game, or are we being carefully watched by those who want us to remain blissfully unaware? The more I uncover, the more I realize that every chilling encounter is just a piece of a puzzle that may never be completed. The encounters with the men in black are more than just eerie stories. They penetrate deep into our psyche, breeding an enduring fear of being watched, monitored, and silenced. These shadowy figures, whether genuine manifestations or creations of collective paranoia, push us to question the fabric of reality itself. As night falls and you find yourself glancing over your shoulder, remember that the line between the known and the unknowable is razor thin. If these tales have stirred something deep within you, fear or curiosity that demands more, subscribe to our channel. Join us as we delve further into the mysteries that lurk in the shadows of our understanding. And as always, be vigilant. The truth is out there, waiting to be uncovered. But so are the watchers, lurking just beyond the veil of darkness. Stay aware, stay curious, and perhaps stay hidden. If you enjoyed this journey into the realm of real-life horror, do not forget to like this video and turn on notifications so you will not miss the chilling encounters that await us next. Until we meet again, keep your lights on and your secrets closer. Thank you for watching.